Hello and welcome to the Free Dominion Show. My name is Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you so very much for joining our broadcast today. Those of you joining us live, especially if you're joining us live from the social media in particular, such as YouTube and Facebook, welcome. We are so glad that you can find some time out of your busy schedule and join our broadcast this morning or this afternoon, I may say. We also want to give you a huge welcome to those of you joining us live from television and radio station. Please be sure to tune in and also join the conversation as it happens. We have our Zoom session open. All of you feel free to joining us live so we can have a fruitful conversation. Those of you who do not know how to get on our Zoom sessions, you must be on social media. We have our links on YouTube platforms, on our YouTube platforms and Facebook platforms. And soon I do believe we are going to be also publishing the Zoom session straight from our website so that you may not have to actually go through the social media platforms. We would love to have you so that we may actually be able to have a fruitful conversation with each and every one of you guys. In this conversation, as you are fully aware of it, we speak with all of you frankly, boldly, and with no apologies. Why? Because the issues that we discuss here at Free Dominion, these are the issues that we care very deeply about. And we also want to let you know, all of you, that every single one of the conversation that we get to have here, we have all our conversations in the spirit of truth, love, and trust. And these are the benchmarks by which we would love each and every one of you to measure both the validity and the integrity of the content that we share with you. And we also welcome all of your feedbacks because we want to know whether we are actually giving you some fruitful information, some useful information that you may actually find not only helpful, but also something that you can utilize to each and every day that you are actually dealing with so many things all over, all over you, all around you. And so we would love your comments. And those of you who do not know how to find us, especially if you would love to drop a message, a feedback, and so on, please reach us out from our website, www.afreedominion.com, www.afreedominion.com. Our main email, it's info@afreedominion.com. info@afreedominion.com. When you reach our website, you will certainly find our phone number in case you want to give us a call. You can find our social media handlers. You can also find our social media group. This is a Telegram group that you can actually join in free of charge and find the like minds, those who are headed the same direction, same destination, and you can actually have an opportunity to discuss with them. And with that, I give you all a huge welcome, a humble, huge welcome, I may put it that way, so that you can actually come over and have an opportunity to discuss so many important issues of which have been left behind for us to pick them up. So with that in mind, I also want to take an opportunity to tell you all what Free Dominion is, and essentially Free Dominion Show. Free Dominion, it's an idea that inspires, advocates, and encourages as well as help. We are helping for a total and complete dominion of Africa, one country at a time by its sons, daughters, and African descendants, all in the interest of African people primarily, and then the rest of the world afterward. So the show, it's a mouthpiece of the idea. On Free Dominion Show, you can expect that every single one of the programs that we have, it's a program that is designed to inspire you, designed to advocate for our voiceless brothers and sisters, and those issues that have been hidden right underneath of the rags. You can find issues that encourages and help you take action. Very Small little mini actions. Practical, not theoretical. And we focus primarily on sons, daughters, African descendants, you, kings and queens of Africa, wherever it is that you may be, whether you know it or not. It's our job, it's our duty, it's our responsibility to remind you who you are. Why do we believe that that's important? If you do not know who you are, everybody else is going to tell you who you are and what you are. Especially in this 2022, we have a redefinition of terms on so many spectrums. Everything has been redefined. And it's important that you get to know who you are who you truly are. And if you don't, you are going to be equally lost. So here at Afri Dominion, we have many themes. We have 5 mini themes that we actually discuss, everything that we discuss. And our five themes, they are as follow: Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Friday. Every single one of the days we have a unique theme that actually helps us do all our work. My goodness. Apologies. I was getting some interruptions and I wanted to pass on a little bit of a message there. So on Fridays, we on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays and Fridays, we have 5 different themes. On Mondays, we talk about eradication of refugees. We're talking about African refugees and stateless persons. On Tuesdays, we talk about the Constitution's law and policy review and implementation. Wednesdays, we talk about our testimony, history telling, and you get to talk about you. You get to write up, you get to write, you get to write down, you get to talk through voice and video, your own history, the way you want it told. On Thursdays, we get to talk about the spirit of dominion. What is the spirit of dominion? This word dominion, it's one of the important words that we love to talk about here at Afri Dominion. Why? Because everything about dominion talks about you. When you wake up, the spirit of dominion within you, you can govern, you can control, you can manage, you can master, especially everything related to Africa. Its natural resources, its land, everything that you as kings and queens are entitled to. Your own inheritance. This is not what you are asking for anybody. This is yours, legally yours. On Friday, we get to talk about the current events and its impact to Africa and the African people. And these are the issues we get to talk about Mondays all the way to Friday. Our broadcast, it's Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. to 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, on live on television, radio station, and of course, social media. If you want to catch us live, you can come during that specific time frames. Otherwise, you find us on demand and definitely on social media. The content remains there. And with that in mind, I want to jump right through. The conversation for today. And today's topic, it's one of those topics that most people don't really want to talk about. But I told you, here at Afri Dominion Show, we speak frankly. Because we really are sick and tired. So we speak frankly, boldly, and with no apologies, the issues that we care most about. So today's issues, 28 years later. Why is it that the United Nations has yet to prosecute crimes committed by the Rwanda Patriotic Front? 28 years later. That's what we want to talk about today. And I also want us to talk about where are the provisions for image reparations for the innocent people wrongly accused of crimes. Case in point, Rwanda. It's always going to be my specialty because I come from Rwanda. I was born in Rwanda. And we have such a powerful and strong history that has both good, bad, and the ugly all in one. So I get to use Rwanda as a case study on most of the things. Even though this pertains to the entire Africa, and each and every one of you actually, especially as a guest, or when you do decide to come and join us here, you can actually take your country as a case study. That way we can actually be in a position to have a fruitful conversation. Apologies, guys. I keep on getting interruption, and it's killing my vibes. But we will do the best to make it happen today. So, what are we saying? What are we saying? First and foremost, what is the 28 years later? For those of you who may not be aware of, in Rwanda in 1994, we had what the United Nations has called genocide, the Rwandan genocide. It's also have been labeled as the genocide against the Tutsis. It all depends on who's talking and at what point, and also the interest that they are seeking out of the whole conversation. But bottom line, the United Nations, in its competence, they set up a court called the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. And its mandate was to prosecute all crimes committed in Rwanda and also around the territory of Rwanda from a time period of January 1st, 1994, all the way to December 31st, 1994. That was its mandate. And prior to January 1st, 1994, going back to October 1st, 1990, there is a rebel group called the Rwanda Patriotic Front, or the Rwanda Patriotic Front, that has attacked Rwanda, committing many heinous crimes, and essentially arrived in 1994 on July 20th, 1994, and seized the power in Rwanda. And during that whole entire time period, the United Nations, in its graceful self, they have picked a very specific time frame to prosecute crimes from January 1st, 1994, all the way to December 31st, 1994. Never mind what happened before, from October 1st, 1990, all the way to December 31st, 1993. Nor after January 1st, 1995, up to today. So they just took one little small segment. Not only that, the United Nations, again, in its competence, they cherry-picked. Hear my words, because I'm choosing my words very carefully. The United Nations decided that the only people that they were going to prosecute were the Rwandan government, the then Rwandan government only. They did not prosecute a single individual from the rebel group. You would imagine, why did that happen? Hence the problem today, hence the question today, why 28 years later, the United Nations has yet to prosecute crimes committed by the Rwanda Patriotic Front. Everybody respects the United Nations. Its competence, its due diligence. I mean, they have so many accolades. However, because most people don't really care much when it comes to Africa. Anything goes when it comes to Africa. At least we came to find out. Point in case, Rwanda. Don't take my word for it. I've got the document today because I want us to go through it right quick. So not only they set up a court in a rush way, the provisions in the statute of that court was incomplete. And I submit to you, and I want you to verify, they have spent billions of dollars on this court. For the durations of how long? Probably about 10 years. And you wonder, what did this court do? This is a question that history will always be asking, but also there is a judgment against the United Nations in its competence, but also the credibility. A prestigious organization such as the United Nations taking sides in Rwanda, not only during that specific time frame that it decided to prosecute, but even prior to that. Many factual evidence available. I'm not just saying this to bash such a prestigious organization as the United Nations. And there were consequences of which are being actually lived by the Rwandan people today. And one would wonder, why would a prestigious organization such as the United Nations have a stake or make such an erroneous error, not only in the setup of the court, however, also in the procedure or the process of the trials that it gets to have? Why cherry pick the Rwandan Patriotic Front? Completely singled out the entire rebel group. The entire rebel group. Up to this very day, not one single member of the Rwanda Patriotic Front has yet to face the crimes that they've committed. Most of who are living large in Rwanda and outside of Rwanda. However, those who were members of the then government have been hunted down like animals, forged crimes that they've given them, some of them, not all of them. And those crimes have been blessed. And you wonder, what kind of justice are we actually looking at as humanity today? What is the example that the United Nations has left behind to a Rwandan kid like myself? When you see the injustices and the injustice committed by the United Nations, who else can you trust if such a highest court as a United Nation can deliberately commit an error, spend billions and billions of dollars, what does that tell you about the systems of governance that we have today? Again, don't take my word for it. Let's jump right into documentation because I really want us to read it. So, the document that I'm using today is the statute of the International Tribunal for Rwanda. I won't go through the whole thing, but I want to label or I want to point out a few things that I really believe it's important that you guys get to see it. Why? Not being able to see it and understand what it is would actually not help you understand some of my questions that I have today. So, again, let's jump right in, guys, because I literally want to get into it. So, this, the International Tribunal for Rwanda, it was set up by the United Nations Security Council under Chapter 7 of the UN or the United Nations. The ICTR, which is the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, its purpose was to prosecute persons responsible for genocide and other serious violations of international humanitarian law committed in the territory of Rwanda and Rwandan citizens responsible for genocide and other such violations committed in the territory of neighboring states between the 1st January 1994 and the 31st December 1994, hereinafter referred to as the International Tribunal for Rwanda, and it shall function in accordance with the provision of the present statutes. Let's stop right there, first and foremost. Do you notice something wrong with this paragraph to begin with? This court, its mandate was only and only to prosecute Rwandan citizens. The first fraud, what I would call a deliberate fraud, to prosecute only Rwandan citizens. Okay? Minding you, from 1990, October 1st, 1990, all the way to December 31st, 1993, you have the Rwanda Patriotic Front fighting Rwanda as a country, helped by Uganda, helped by so many other countries, Tanzania, the United States, and so many other Western countries. The United Nations, again in its full competence, they do not want to touch anybody else except Rwandan citizens, which means automatically Uganda was excluded because it was the base of terrorism, it was the base of the war. That's where the rebels were trained, given ammunition, guns, and everything. That is where all the co-conspirators would land, meaning the weapons that the Rwanda Patriotic Front has used were being taken to Uganda from the West. Corporations bringing in guns, bringing in bombs, bringing in mass destruction weapons in Uganda. Multinational military taking the rebels and giving them trainings. Giving them the means to fight, to invade a country. So many things that the United Nations has deliberately ignored. That's the justice that we have today. Now, the worst part about this whole thing, I was just a kid in 1994. I couldn't have had access to this document. I couldn't have been able to read this document in English because my English was zero. I couldn't have access to the documentation. It was probably only on the need-to-know basis in 1994. But I point a finger, actually I can point all my fingers to all the grown-ups back in 1994, be it the then Rwandan government, those who knew that they hadn't done anything. How is it that they saw such a document and did not act? The Rwandan ambassador, right before they switched him, why is it that he'd never done anything to contest of such a document, a flawed document, I may call it? If you're really seeking justice, you have to seek justice for all, not a partial justice, not a cherry-picked justice, which is why we're still talking about it today, 28 years later. Let's move on to the second article, the competence of the International Tribunal for Rwanda. The International Tribunal for Rwanda shall have the power to prosecute persons responsible for serious violations of international humanitarian law committed in the territory of Rwanda and Rwandan citizens responsible for such violations committed in the territory of neighboring states between January 1st, 1994 and December 31st, 1994, in accordance to the provisions of the present statute. Article 2, Genocide. The International Tribunal for Rwanda shall have the power to prosecute persons committing genocide as defined in paragraph 2 of this article, or of committing any of the other acts enumerated in paragraph 3 of this article. Paragraph 2, genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such, killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent birth within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Following acts shall be punishable: genocide, conspiracy to commit genocide, direct and public incitement to commit genocide, attempt to commit genocide, complicity in genocide. So this article, this document is French and English. So you'll notice that there is a French part that I would just get to skip, so we can just jump right in back to English. Article 3, Crimes Against Humanity. The International Tribunal for Rwanda shall have the power to prosecute persons responsible for the following crimes when committed as part of a widespread or systematic attack against any civilian populations on national, political, ethnic, racial, or religious grounds: murder, extermination, enslavement, deportation, imprisonment, torture, rape, persecution on political, racial, and religious grounds, and other inhumane acts. Article 4, violations of Article 3, common to the Geneva Convention and of additional protocols. The International Tribunal for Rwanda shall have the power to prosecute persons committing or ordering to be committed serious violations of Article 3, common to the Geneva Conventions of the 12th August 1949 for the protection of war victims, and of additional protocol 2 thereto, of 8th June 1977. These violations shall include but not limited to violence to life, health and physical or mental well-being of persons, in particular murder, as well as cruel treatment such as torture, mutilation, or any form of corporal punishment, collective punishments, taking of hostages, acts of terrorism, outrages upon personal dignity, in particular humiliating or degrading treatment, rape, enforced prostitutions, and any form of indecent assault, pillage, the passing of sentences, and the carrying out of executions without previous judgment pronounced by a regularly constituted court, affording all the judicial guarantees which are recognized as indispensable by civilized peoples. Threats to commit any of the foregoing acts. Let me go quickly, guys. Article 5, personal jurisdiction. International Tribunal for Rwanda shall have jurisdiction over natural persons pursuant to the provisions of the present statutes. Article 6, individual criminal responsibility. A person who planned, investigated, ordered, committed, or otherwise aided and abetted in the planning, preparation, or execution of crime referred to Article 2 to 4 of the present statute shall be individually responsible for the crimes. The official position of any accused person, whether as a head of state or government or as a responsible government official, shall not liable such person of criminal responsibility nor mitigate punishment. Let me read this again. The official position of any accused person, whether as a head of state or government or as a responsible government official, shall not relieve such person of criminal responsibility nor mitigate punishment. Now I understand it. The fact that any of the acts referred to in Article 2 to 4 of the present statute was committed by a subordinate does not relieve his or her superior criminal responsibility if he or she knew or had reason to know that the subordinate was about to commit such acts or had done so, and the superior failed to take the necessary and reasonable measures to prevent such acts or to punish the perpetrator thereof. The fact that an accused person acted pursuant an order of a government or a superior shall not relieve him or her of criminal responsibility, but may be considered in mitigation of punishment if the International Tribunal for Rwanda determines that justice is so required. Territorial and temporary jurisdiction. The territorial jurisdiction of the International Tribunal for Rwanda shall extend to the territory of Rwanda, including its land, surface, air, space, as well as the territory of neighboring states in respect of serious violation of international humanitarian law committed by Rwandan citizens. The temporal jurisdiction of the International Tribunal for Rwanda shall extend to a period beginning January 1st. They keep on repeating that. Article 8, concurrent jurisdiction. The International Tribunal for Rwanda and national courts shall have concurrent jurisdictions to prosecute persons for serious violation of international humanitarian law committed in the territory of Rwandan citizens, such as violations committed in the territory of neighboring states between that particular date. The International Tribunal for Rwanda shall have the primacy over national courts of any states. At any stage of the procedure, the International Tribunal for Rwanda may formally request national courts to defer to its competence in accordance with the present statutes of the rule of procedure and evidence of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. Going on down right quick, This is a very small article, guys. I mean, a little small document. Organizations, I'm not going to get into that. That's pretty much it. So, basically, every single Rwandan citizen had been judged based on the first article all the way to the 8th article. Now, there's an interesting thing that I want to go to down here. Right after they set up the court, they talk about how they are going to set up the court. By the way, you can read this document. I put a reference link for it right down there. And I want you guys to see how injustice is done in the books, in our eyes, guys. And none of us get to do anything about it. So we have indictments and all of that. Rights of the accused. All persons shall be equal before the International Tribunal for Rwanda. In determination of charges against him or her, the accused shall be entitled to a fair and public hearing, subject to Article 21 of the statute. The accused shall be presumed innocent. Let me repeat. The accused shall be presumed innocent until proven guilty, my apologies, according to the provisions of the present statute. Again, they go straight back to French to translate. Let's see what Article 21 reads. Protections of victims and witnesses. The International Tribunal for Rwanda shall provide in its rules of procedure and evidence for the protection of victims and witnesses. Such protection measures shall include but shall not be limited to the conduct of in-camera proceedings and the protection of victims' identity. Judgment. The trial chamber shall pronounce judgments and impose sentences and penalties on persons convicted of serious violation of international humanitarian law. The judgment shall be rendered by a majority of judges of the chamber of the tribunal and delivered by the trial chamber in public. It shall be accompanied by a reasoned opinion in writing, to which separate or dissenting opinions may be appended. Penalties. I'm not going to get into all of this. The main piece that I wanted you guys to see, it was the setup of the court. Now, going back, you notice that on Article 21, they say that all the people are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Okay? Today we have a situation where some of these individuals have been acquitted of any wrongdoings. But because our smart people who have written this documentation have no provisions whatsoever to repair the image. Do you know what it is to be called a genocidaire? Do you know what it is to be broadcasted on international televisions? That you are a genocide suspect, that you are a genocidaire. And by the time they take you to court, and by God's grace you are found not guilty, and you have been acquitted, those same international broadcasts, none of them gives you even 2 minutes airtime to actually clear your name so you can be so you can actually go back in your regular life. You have a family, you have families, extended family members, and so on, that you cannot go to. Why? Because the minute you have this stamp of a genocidaire, nobody wants you all over the planet. Certainly, we have a predicament right now. The rebel group, the Rwanda Patriotic Front, is in charge of the country today as a government. One, they have yet to answer not one single crimes that they've committed. By the way, the list is long and it has been actually put here. Everything you see here, they are candidates. Everything you see here. From October 1st, actually I keep on going October 1st because that's when it all started. Let's take the time period that the United Nations has carved itself. Even though we are going to require and request that competent courts would have to go back from October 1st, 1994, up until today, and prosecute everybody, including foreign nationals, foreign corporations, foreign governments, for their role in the genocide that was committed in Rwanda. That is when we can actually have true justice of what has happened in Rwanda. Now there is a bit of a problem with that, and I can just tell you up front. You have some of the main big nations running the United Nations. You have the United Nations, you have the United States, you have the United Kingdoms, you have France, you have Russia, and you have China. These 5 big boys, you can be assured, they have a pretty big hand in what has happened. Minding you, the Rwandan Patriotic Front did not own a single manufacturer that gave him guns, that gave him bullets, that gave him bombs. Do you know where those bombs came from? Do you know where the bullets came from? They came from these big 5 nations and some other nations. Let's go second to training. Do you know where the Rwandan Patriotic Front received training? Especially the high-ranking members, the high-ranking officials. And these officials, by the way, they were members of the Ugandan NRA, National Resistance Army, I think, which is the President Museveni's army. These were generals, majors, colonels in Uganda with Ugandan citizenship, invading Rwanda. And somehow the United Nations had amnesia. They could not charge him. Why? Because some of the major countries were supporting them directly. They've committed murder from October 1st, 1990, all the way to December 31st, 1993. They continued to commit murder January 1st, 1994, all the way to December 31st, 1994. They further continued to commit murder January 1st, 1995, up to date. Extermination. They have committed extermination from October 1st up to date. I was just being blunt when I was mentioning those dates. Enslavement, check. Deportation, not checked. Imprisonment. So many innocent Rwandan people. They have been housed in jails, both known and unknown, what they call black sites in Rwanda, specifically for this time period that the United Nations have chosen to investigate in. Even before and after, this practice has continued. Torture, oh my goodness. Plenty evidence. Now, even us today, we have evidence of our own. On video, we're not talking about like someone else telling you and then you get to write it down. Witnesses telling their own stories of what has happened to them. Rape, plenty of rapes taking place Now, minding you, all of this I am looking at the Rwandan Patriotic Front, because somehow the United Nations has forgotten that the rebel has committed these heinous crimes. Up to this very day, they have yet to prosecute any of it. And you wonder, as a Rwandan kid, now I'm old enough to actually read for myself. I'm old enough to go and research. What do you think I think of the United Nations based on what they have done back in 1994 when I was just a kid? They looked at all foreign nationals, excluded them. All foreign corporations, excluded them. All foreign governments, excluded them. They did not want to prosecute any of them except Rwandan citizens. What kind of justice is this from the United Nations? A competent institution that is respected worldwide. However, this conversation as it is, I know it will not be heard or listened from the mainstream media. Why? Because they run the mainstream media also. This is why I keep on telling you young people, until we take the full and complete dominion of Africa and its affairs, us as sons, daughters, and African descendants, we may not be able to sort out everything that's been happening to the continent of Africa, everything that has happened to Rwanda, my native homeland. Because you still have so many stakeholders who have committed crimes, and they are still living large with zero consequences, without even looking after their shoulders, because the United Nations made it so that they will never be followed, never be investigated. It becomes worse. I want you to go research the investigators, the United Nations investigators who have attempted to investigate. They actually have investigated, but when it came to reporting the crimes committed by the Rwanda Patriotic Front, somehow those individuals found themselves dead. Mark my words. I say that I'm very carefully choosing my words today. Those people, they all mysteriously died. Do you think that I'm lying? Do a little bit of homework yourselves, guys. Because again, I'm assuming that I'm actually talking to adults here who are not just interested, but curious to see whether what I'm telling you right now is true. And if there is any flaw in what I'm saying, call me out. I dare you. We are living a lie today. We are living a preconceived lie. I am 100% for prosecuting any and all people who have committed crimes against humanity. Everything that this document stipulates, I am for it. Without cherry picking a single individual. Not just limited to the Rwandan citizens. Not just limited to Rwandan citizens. Where is the justice? Think about it today. If you have Rwandan terrorists, they come in and then they go and they blow out the Twin Towers. And then the United Nations says, you know what? Our investigation is going to only focus on the United States citizens who have a hand in blowing up the Twin Towers. Can you see the United States going for that? Truthfully speaking. And again, I will submit to you. It's hell to the no. The FBI, the CIA, the justice system, each and every one of these, even the Homeland Security, they will absolutely stop at nothing until they find everybody. So we are told. So I want you guys to think critical to how the injustice has been committed in Rwanda, has been committed against the Rwandan citizens, has been committed against the entire planet Earth. You have murderers running governments. You have rapers running governments. You have genocidal running governments in Rwanda today, all under the watch of the United Nations. You have multinational government officials, murderers, living large. You have multinational corporations who've committed murder and genocide, living large, still in business, just because they've committed against Africans. It's okay. They are very expendable. So until when, guys? Until when? Until when can we actually seek true justice? Why is it okay that when it comes to African, not only you can judge them, but you make zero provision to clear them? This article, actually the entire document, it lacks not one single article that stipulates what happens when an accused has been acquitted. What happens when an accused is found innocent? How do we reinstate them in public life? How do we actually give him his life back? Some of who have spent 10, 20 years. Who is responsible for the damages that their families, extended families, the shame, the image that these families are going through, have gone through? Why don't we now have a provision that stipulates those who falsely accuse him? Because now you've got a suspect providing witnesses in a case that he doesn't want to be implicated in. What kind of justice is that? Remember, Rwanda as a government, let me rephrase it, the Rwanda Patriotic Front, after it seized the government in Rwanda, was in charge of sending witnesses to Tanzania at the International Tribunal, International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, to actually to testify against the people whom the United Nations has said that they have committed genocide. They have zero chance to face them face to face because of Article 21. Can you just imagine a perfect scenario besides that? A war criminal suspect gets to pick a witness who goes and speak on behalf of his opponent. They go and speak on behalf of that suspect against their opponent. Do you see the scenario, guys, or are you just not getting it? Those of you who don't get it, I'm sure you'll get it 10 years from now. 28 years later, Rwanda can actually write arrest warrant for any particular Rwanda that they so chose. Reminding you that this is the same rebel group turned into government that has yet to answer for the crimes that they've committed. Most of these crimes already written down in this document. After billions of dollars spent to this court, they've managed to try, I believe, 72 something people, less than 100 people. Out of what? 6, 7, 8 millions Rwandan? They cherry-picked 72. All of whom were only the former government leaders or some sort of association with it. Plus, maybe a couple businessmen or women. Guys, I am wondering up to this very moment, where is justice? Who is going to render true justice to the Rwandese people? Certainly not the United Nations. Because up to this very moment, they have yet to make any attempt to even rectify such a horrendous error that they made here. But to make matters worse, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda has actually closed and has been actually given now to a new court called International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, which means its mandate has pretty much been terminated. And you wonder, does that mean that the Rwandan Patriotic Front will never face justice? All those generals who have committed murder, who have committed genocide, who have raped, who have plundered, who have committed torture, and so many other crimes against humanity will never answer to them. No wonder they can freely go to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and commit the same crimes, because they know there is zero consequences. No wonder they can just freely go and steal people and kidnap people, because there are no consequences. If that's the culture that we are actually bringing to light, what does that tell me? What does that tell the children that I'm going to have? My grandchildren? What are you telling a victim? A Rwandan victim, to be specific. Be it a Hutu, a Tutsi, or Twa. You are very selective in your justice. It is not justice for all. And guys, this is a wake-up call. In 2022, we are still talking about what has happened in 1994 and the flood in setting up the court that none of us has even taken a single time to see what was happening in it. And today we are reaping the consequences of what has happened then. I think I will just stop it there. I want to go to some of you in Zoom. Because I want you guys to really think critical. The issues that we talking about here are very serious, guys. Are very serious. When do we get justice? Ever since 1994, let me actually humor you guys. Let me Google it so I don't make any mistakes. All right, let's see here. So, ever since 1994, we have had, let's see, we have at least 3 Secretary Generals who have led the organizations, and none of them bothered to rectify the mistake. We have the famous Boutros Ghali, who's long gone. We have Kofi Annan, who's long gone. We have Ban Ki-moon, who's still alive. Neither one of these amazing, and so we are told, individuals have done anything. And you would wonder, did they actually collude into all of this? Or they just put a signature on the document without reading it? Why would it take at least 28 years before noises could be made, an alarm could be raised? But I do know that there've been some individuals who have made some noises, but they found themselves dead. And today, I am wondering whether the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is going to bother rectify such a horrendous error that they have made. And until we make him do it, mark my words, until we make him do it, they won't do nothing. Remember, we are regarded as babies, children. They decide for you and I. They decide everything on our behalf. They decide where your life will end, how it's going to be, when it's going to be, and who's going to take a part in it. And we are sick and tired of that kind of lifestyle. At least I'm tired. This country, the United States, it has a premise that everybody has inalienable rights to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. And I believe every single human being ought to be able to have those fundamental rights, not just in the books. Do you know that all individuals who have been taken to the United Nations set-up court were already presumed guilty? Because if they were not by default presumed guilty, they would have already made provisions to how do they become rehabilitated to the general public, especially when they are found innocent, especially when they have been acquitted. But they never bother putting it in there because they have already been stamped as a scapegoat. Why wouldn't it be the case, especially that only the mandate was only to prosecute those with bad luck from Rwanda, the Rwandan citizens? I wonder why Museveni, above all, hasn't faced the criminal tribunal up to this date. He was the leader of Uganda, oversaw the entire operation. He's old now. He may pass on before he actually get prosecuted. It is sad, but it's disgraceful to us as Africans that some of the things that we see every day, we are either too afraid to speak up. Evil is evil, no matter who's committing it. Even if it's someone who's big and they are going to bully you, or someone small enough that you can handle yourself, it doesn't change the fact that evil is evil. At some point, guys, you have to grow some strength in you. You have to grow some balls that you can be able to say, you know what? No matter what, I will stick to the truth. I will literally be on the side of justice. Justice for all. Let the innocent walk. Because they have nothing to do with it. Why create a situation where you have scapegoats? Just so that the very suspect continue to live large. The same suspects become the judge, the jury, and the prosecutors. It is so disgraceful. It is very, very disgraceful. So guys, this is a call to all of you. When I say we have so much work to do, it is no joke. And the kind of work that we have to do, not only it pertains to us as Rwandese people, the East Africans, or even just the entire Africa as a continent. It also touches the very core of your moral standing. Where is your moral compass? Will you let your brother, your sister, your dad, your mom, your grandpa, your grandma freely walk, even though you may know that they've committed genocide? You may know that they have murdered someone, that they have exterminated people, enslaved people, imprisoned people, tortured people, raped people, persecuted people for various reasons. Will you let that go just because you are related? What happens when now, all of a sudden, what you have allowed to slide by, someone else now brings evidence against the same people? You already knew that they've committed those crimes. It just won't be only shame, but you're also going to be a part of it. You are going to be implicated. Aiding and abetting, invading the law. Which is why I really urge you, young people, please read. Please read. Have competency into a lot of these domains that we are going to urgently need you to fulfill. We are not going to use foreigners in our national security issues, in African security related issues. because we want to maintain the integrity of everything that we're doing. The United Nations is comprised by almost the entire world. It is run by the main 5 nations. Whatever they decide, go. Nobody can say anything else otherwise. So I ask you, what is the purpose of joining the United Nations when the interest of your own people is stamped upon? Do you join it by force or whatever other reasons? Can we just bail out of the United Nations as the entire Africa, not just one country? We can focus on the United States of Africa, absolutely reform the African Union without murderers, without suspects of genocides running it. And some of those high profiles who have committed heinous crimes, but they still they are still walking free. We've got a whole lot of work to do, guys. When I talk about this, I get chills in my body. Because when this happened, I was just a kid. Absolutely had no idea why even someone would just want to kill me. I hadn't done anything wrong. Up to this day, my hands are clean. Aside of perhaps when my mouth, if anything, my mouth will kill me because I talk too much. But again, I also talk the truth. I speak nothing but the truth. Even when I tell something that is erroneous, I am very quick to fix it as soon as I know that it has some errors in it, publicly. That's one of my principles. So, I have come to realize that instead of shutting up, instead of keeping quiet, I will gladly go, knowing that I have spoke the truth. Those of you who choose otherwise, it's on you. We know that most of you are afraid that you are going to be blacklisted. True, you may be blacklisted. Why? If evil is running the entire system, let's create our own system. Why do you get blacklisted and you know you're walking in the truth? That's because you're in a system that isn't yours. How is it that you actually give up the leadership to someone else who's not seeking, who's not fighting, who's not securing your very best interest? That is beyond idiotic. Even though you may say this is what we are accustomed to, we got to change that. We absolutely have to change that. So young people, what am I asking you right now? I need you to go back and read that document. There's a link that I have provided. I'm expecting that you get to read word by word. If you do not understand the document, Go to any of the translators that we have on the internet, put the document there. Read it in whatever language that you are most fluent in. Even though the document might not be 100% as accurate as it is in English, you get to have a general idea. There is seriously a need to understand your enemy. Your true enemy, you have yet to face him or her. You're fighting with your brothers and sisters because that's how it has been predetermined. The mastermind is watching everything going in motion. Why? Because you have a wealthy continent with natural resources that the entire planet wants to own. These big 5 nations that I told you about, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China, they have stronghold in Africa. They oversee wars, crimes against humanity, all kinds of heinous activity taking place. As strong as they are, as capable as they are, they do nothing about it because it is not in their very best interest primarily. Why are they in Africa? Whose interest are they securing? Is it yours as Africans or is theirs? Why are you so blind in opening arms and invite him through when you cannot just come to the United States, you cannot just come to the United Kingdom, you cannot just come to France, you cannot just come to Russia, you certainly cannot just come to China the same way that they freely come, the same way that you freely say, come sir, the same way as slaves welcomes a master when the master arrives. Modern slavery is happening on the continent of Africa today in 2022. And most of you are too asleep to realize what's going on. Most of you are too uninterested to do anything about it. Most of you choose to be ignorant about it because you already have so many other things that you are worried about. But have you thought about the consequences of not doing anything about it? Both short-term and long-term. Whether you think about it today, whether you think about it tomorrow, or whenever you get to it, these consequences aren't going to wait for you. They are real, and they are destroying millions of lives. I say millions, capital M, millions of lives. And the big 5 will never see justice, not one single day. Will never face trial, not one single day, unless we come together and we make that happen ourselves. Which is why, again, It wasn't by mistake that the Rwanda Patriotic Front was allowed to invade Rwanda, was given training by these big, strong nations, was given military training, ammunitions, weaponry to use, and making sure that they would actually take over. Last but not the least, I don't know if you remember, one of the things that the United Nations had to do, let me see if I remember what I read it. The jurisdiction. I thought it was important that we actually get to talk about that, but I completely forgot. The jurisdiction of the court. The territorial jurisdiction of the International Tribunal for Rwanda shall extend to the territory of Rwanda, including its land surface, airspace, as well as the territory of neighboring states in respect of serious violation of international humanitarian law committed by the Rwandan citizens. Why am I mentioning these guys? On April 6, 1994, a plane carrying not one, but two presidents was shot down by two missiles provided by these big five nations, shut down in Rwanda under the jurisdiction of the United Nations, as we are being told. 28 years later, now one single investigation has been done by the United Nations as to who the perpetrators are, even though they already know. So what does this mean to you all? It simply means we're in trouble. The history we have lived this past 28 years is going to be rewritten one of these days. Sadly speaking, this history will be rewritten. Because you can suffocate the truth, but the truth prevails in the end. The truth always prevails in the end. It's disgraceful that a competent institution such as the United Nations failed in its own determined mandate. Mark my words, it has failed not just the Rwandese people, but also its credibility to the future young people, to the future generation. How can you have a respect to such a competent institution when you know what it has done in the past and it has not had any audacity to even say, you know what? Let's attempt to rectify. Let's make amends. They just shoved it under the rugs and kumbaya. It's beyond disgraceful. How do you trust governments when you know that they are colluding in exterminating its own peoples under the watch of the big fives, As long as it's not in their very best interest, they let it slide by. Such is what has happened. Who is going to tell the story, guys, as is? And at what cost also are we going to tell this story? So let me end it here. I just want to actually say to you all that conversations like this, they make me feel like I wish I was a Superman, capable of doing mighty things, so that we can actually take action towards some of these things that we know are just an injustice upright in our faces. So I want you guys to really, let's join forces, let's join hands, and work hard on behalf of our voiceless people, on behalf of those who have already departed, the innocent lives that have been killed, their lives cut short because they were predetermined to die, and the perpetrator still living large today, be it Rwandan citizens and multinationals and other foreign nationals. Be it as it may, even if it takes us 100 years, 200 years, we are going to seek the truth. We must seek the truth. They cannot kill all of us, by the way. We know that there is a tendency that they have been assassinating some of the few of us who would come up and say, hey, we want a revolution, we want the change, we want this and that. Today is different. They just won't be able to kill all of us all at once. Anyway, let me know your feedbacks on this topic. Be sure to visit our website, www.afridominion.com. Drop us a message, give us a call. But above all, if you like this program, please support us. This program is fully funded by us, because nobody will find a program like this. Certainly not the stakeholders who already have a debt to society that they have to pay. But it's up to us, guys, to communicate all of this. It is truly up to us to communicate the truth, to seek justice and justice for all. And with that in mind, I am Freeman Singirankabo, here at Afri Dominion show. I'm super grateful for the opportunity to appear in front of you and the content that we have shared. I hope that it was educational. I hope that it was informative. And I hope that we can actually share more of the same content in the near future. Until next time, I want to wish you all a super fantastic day. You have a great day, and God bless.